I'm having a look now at the sentencing guidelines for threats to kill, and I don't know exactly what. Well, I made a serious threat to kill. There's no sort of two ways about that, really. That's certainly how that video would be taken, even though I was discussing it sort of in the subjunctive and not really ever intending to carry out something like that. And I certainly showed remorse when the police officers showed up and interviewed me about it. Higher culpability when there's a visible weapon, threats of significant violence. Yeah, indeed, I did make a threat of significant violence. That's already in the higher culpability category. Medium culpability, the offender's culpability falls between the factors described in A and C. Offender's responsibility was substantially reduced by mental disorder or learning disability. Um, yeah, that's probable as well. So offence was limited in scope and duration. Yeah, likewise, it was limited in scope and duration. It was just on the internet also, it wasn't in real life. I wasn't like literally there threatening to kill someone. I was in a different county halfway across the country threatening her apparently. And not threatening her directly either, but I did also sort of assume that she would be watching my social media channels, and the fact that if she made a police report about it, that sort of does prove that she has been stalking me on the internet, which I believe somewhat moots the point, since she's been stalking me for years by proxies, as well as probably by herself personally, and that has caused me a great deal of distress over these many years. And yeah, indeed. So, okay, let's say, I think what this is factors present in both A and C. So we'll go for B, medium culpability. The next factor to consider is harm. Where there are factors present from more than one category of harm, the court should weigh those factors in order to decide which category most resembles the offender's case. Category 1, very serious distress caused to the victim, significant psychological harm caused to the victim, offence had a considerable practical impact on the victim. Category 2, some distress caused to the victim, some psychological harm caused to the victim, offence has some practical impact on the victim, so she would need psychological assessment basically. And it is my understanding of this person, this woman, that she would actually fall into category 3, little or no distress or harm caused to the victim in real terms, and the rest would merely be bad acting. She'd be faking it basically, like she faked distress before my father and her tried to get me stitched up on afraid charges, false charges. So yeah, this is what the court had to take into consideration. Also, starting point in category range. So we've got a table here which gives the categories of harm against the categories of culpability. Say I'm in the B category for culpability, and it is, say they say it's category 2, and she's managed to convince them that I inflicted some degree of psychological harm upon her. The starting point would be 1 year's custody. So that's a year in prison, basically. But the category range is 26 weeks to 2 years, 6 months custody. Okay, so that's pretty serious, and the starting point is 1 year. Then let's say I convince them that, or the psychologist assessing her become convinced that she's just putting it on to try and get me punished more severely. Then the starting point is 26 weeks custody, i.e. 6 months prison. Then the category range is high level community order to 1 year's custody, which, yeah, is, if I do a year in jail, maybe I could even, I don't know. Or a year in a mental hospital, but that would be more likely. I don't really want to be in a mental hospital for a year, that's for damn certain. However, factors increasing seriousness. Previous convictions. I've got one conviction under the Communications Act, and that's all I have. Over the past, and that was 6 years ago or so. So, offence committed while on bail. I've never committed any offences on bail, as far as I'm aware. Offence committed by demonstrating hostility based on the following characteristics or presumed characteristics of the victim: religion, race, disability, sexual orientation, or transgender identity. No, nothing like that. Offence was committed against an emergency worker acting in the exercise of functions as such a worker? No, of course not. She's not an emergency worker. Offence was committed against a person providing a public service, performing a public duty of providing services to the public. Now, this could be an aggravating factor because indeed she's a public servant. That is the problem here. These people sort of get like a higher level of treatment than the peasants, right? The lower levels of society, shall we say? The people who are outside of the sphere of public duty. However, her public duty, when she was interim transformation lead for health and social care at Wiltshire Council, was basically going out ending people's careers, making easy money by firing people for David Cameron during austerity. So was she really providing a great public service? I don't think so particularly. She was just reorganising the health and social care system, really easy job to do, basic management consultancy, in, fire 60% of the workforce, shiny new logo, out. And a big fat paycheck for doing it. So yeah, she's a destroyer of lives and careers and livelihoods. And that's part of her bad character, frankly, accepting that sort of work. Other aggravating factors: offence committed against those who work in the public sector providing services to the public. I've done that. Impact of offence on others, particularly children. I don't believe any children follow my Facebook feed, nor am I knowingly friends with any children on my Facebook. Offence committed in a domestic abuse context? No. Victim is particularly vulnerable? I don't think so. Failure to comply with current court orders? I don't have any current court orders. Offence committed on licence or post-sentence supervision? Likewise, no. Offences taken into consideration? That's, factors reducing seriousness or reflecting personal mitigation. Remorse is one. No previous convictions or no relevant recent convictions. What's a recent conviction? I mean, 6 years ago is a pretty long time ago, let's face it. And positive character and or exemplary conduct regardless of previous convictions. Well, Dave Elliott of the National Trust did indeed say I was one of the good ones who worked for the National Trust. Like, whether or not my conduct was exemplary or not, I did sort of trash speckled wood a bit and leave it in a bit of a state. But I did work very hard for them over the course of that year, and I don't believe I caused them any trouble in particular. I mean, I never complained. I worked very hard at the job and, didn't really have any time off, except for going to the odd appointment here and there and things. And yeah, I gave it I gave it everything. I gave it my all. I think Dave is a man of his word. I think he might be able to stick up for me and sort of give me a positive, an assessment of positive character. I'd hope so anyway. I think my character largely is positive. I avoid violence like the plague. I always try to stick by the right side of the law. I really do. Serious medical condition requiring urgent, intensive or long-term treatment. I don't have one of those. Age or lack of maturity. Maybe I'm a little immature from time to time, but which may be applicable to offenders aged 18 to 25, which I'm not. I'm 33. Mental disorder or learning disability. I suffer from severe mental disorders, PTSD and OCD, and they can't fathom where these disorders have come from, other than by past abuse and very possibly attempts on my life at university. Sole or primary caring for dependent relatives, I'm not one of those. Determination and demonstration of steps have been taken to address offending behaviour. Yes, I have done that. The last time I offended, since the last time I offended was in self-defence, I have taken steps to address that over the last 2.5 years or so and haven't done anything. And I've got myself a volunteering job with the National Trust. So that is something, I think. Prospects or in-work training or education. I'm sort of an autodidact on that ground, on that level, with my business Astrodyne Rocket Jet, where I'm trying to build something which could radically increase the GDP of the Western Hemisphere. Difficult and or deprived background or personal circumstances. That would be the one to go for. Those difficult personal circumstances, aggravated hugely by the involvement of mental health services, motivated by Nicola Lewis's fucking involvement in my life. No contact with mental health services since she showed up. No spiking incidents at university since she showed up. No rumours about me being this, that and the other since she showed up. In fact, my life was going pretty swimmingly until she showed up. So, and I think most people would agree I was a pretty good person. And then I hope I still am a good person. But what this is an example of reactive abuse. They push you and push you and push you and push you in one way, shape or form, or any way they can. Bully, harass, intimidate, then you finally lash out in one way or another. And then they say, oh, you're evil, you're unstable, you're the abuser. That's what they do. This is unfair. And like, to take this out of context, of course you need to consider context if you're to appropriately administer justice. So I don't know what this would be mitigated down to. I reckon very possibly 3 months in a mental hospital for this. Not a community order even. But yeah, I don't know. It's pretty bad what I did. I'm remorseful as well. I shouldn't have done it. I'm not remorseful because for her sake. I don't believe for a second she suffered as a result of it. I think the first thing on her thought in her mind when she saw that video was like, I can use this against him, and trying to fuck him over because of this. But yeah, as I've said before, I've been the judge in my own case, you can't do that obviously, but what would I give me? Yeah, maybe 3 months in a mental hospital like what I got last time for PT. My God. But then again, I don't know what other people think. What do you think? What do you think I should get for that, what I've done? Limited in duration, scope, remorseful, of generally speaking good character, trying at least have a positive influence on the world, leave behind a legacy of great things I did for humanity at the end of my life, and can carry on in a volunteering position for 11 months and have everyone around me be relatively, I think, happy with how I performed, and working my arse off really on various projects in my spare time as well. I was doing things like working on dairy farms for 2 years, going to agricultural college, every step of the road trying to make myself into a better person, being held back also by lack of driving license, being driven into homelessness again and again and again by abusive families who refuse to support me or refuse to give me the support I need. Then there's Nicola in the background manipulating my father constantly into or doing goodness knows what else as well, motivating people to follow me around and harass me in real life and online, like some Callum Pride, but could well be one of her flying monkeys. So you got to take this into consideration. And yeah, she does need proper psychological examination to determine the level to which I really harmed her psychologically. I don't think I did, not one bit. I see pure, callous, psychopathic narcissism in that woman. That is Tamara for you. That is, just a cold-blooded, ruthless individual who will stop at nothing to get ahead, to get even more wealthy and powerful. And that is what she wants, really. So yeah, thank you for watching. I think I've said enough.